This is Chapman, who's the former head of counter-terrorism at the Ministry of Defence. Chip, who better to talk to today, actually? I mean, is this going to make a huge difference to the war on terror?
Well, he was leader of Al-Qaeda core, but he was more of a sort of jihadist preacher rather than a sort of dynamic leader. So in a way, his demise might mean that someone more dynamic takes over. And I disagree with the previous interview you had. The guy who we think is lined up is not to do with the Haqqani network at all. It's a guy called Saif al-Abdal, and he has form as both a significant planner and a jihadist, including being involved in the embassy attacks in 1998 in Kenya and Tanzania. But it's the reach of the Americans that this shows, which is significant. It's the over-the-horizon strikes, which people were worried about not being able to do when we pulled out of Afghanistan a year ago, which is significant. And the fact that we can still do this and have the intelligence to do it. Now, whether that was through technical means or human intelligence means, having agents, or indeed that Zawahiri had actually upset the Taliban, because his last announcement was in June this year, his fifth in a series of lectures, i.e. had more comfort maybe from one group of the Taliban, but he did make some implicit criticism of the Taliban then, in that they weren't following a rigorous form of Sharia as he would see it. That might be something that you'd find odd, but that was one of the ways it could be interpreted.
I mean, is there a risk that with Zawahiri's replacement and with the West departing from Afghanistan, that actually the Taliban could be dragged even further towards Islamist extremism?
I don't think so. I mean, you might recall a year ago I was saying, what a sort of group are the Taliban? For me, they're more Pashtun nationalists than the sort of universal Ummah. Now, there is a trisection between the Taliban, the Haqqani network, and Al-Qaeda, which always goes on. But one of the significant things at the moment is there seems to be a rapprochement with the Indians, with the Taliban. And most recently, they've said that they won't allow a significant number of groups attack in the Indian subcontinent. And those are the groups which are probably more significant at the moment than the transnational ability of both IS and Al-Qaeda. Those groups are Lashkar-e-Toiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, and a third group called the TTP.
How fragmented is coordinated Islamist extremism in that region of the world? Because, of course, we always think of Al-Qaeda, the Taliban. Are there smaller sort of splinter groups that do still pose a significant threat to that region, but also to the West?
They pose a threat in the region, but not to the West, and that is why the strategic decision was taken to get out of Afghanistan. And if you look at what the director of the CIA, William Burns, said in July last year, and Avril Haines, who's the director of national intelligence, she said that both Al-Qaeda and IS no longer have the ability to conduct transnational attacks against the US and international homeland. That has been the case in the last year. That doesn't mean attacks won't take place by those inspired by either the theology and ideology of Al-Qaeda and IS, but